Okay. Hold on a second. Share screen, screen one. Okay, just a quick raise your hand. Like, how many of you using AI, in particular generative AI tools such as Gemini, ChatGPT at work? Raise your hand. Okay. So, what's the policy at work? Like you're required to use it, you're encouraged to use it, or you're secretly using it? What's the situation? Anybody want to speak? Go ahead.
Well, mine's different because I work with AI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What kind of company that is?
It's like a part-time job.
Mhm.
It's like AI like training kind of.
Training?
Yeah. We like it's kind of like prompt engineering, but it's more like training with AI.
Okay. Oh, so you're training AI?
Yeah.
Ah.
Different, yeah.
Is it for your own firm or you're providing you're providing some
Yeah,
training
it's a-
data to
yeah.
train something that for the client?
Yeah.
I see. It's not scale.ai, is it?
What was it?
There's a company called scale.ai. They're doing something like that. There's a few companies doing that. They're making a lot of money though.
It's through Handshake.
Handshake? Oh, I see. Awesome. Understand. Anybody else? Okay. So, so the diffusion of innovation in the workplace may be still limited, but that may change very quickly. I don't know how fast it would. I don't have a crystal ball to see how fast that will be coming to you. Even at the university environment, some of our faculty may not want to use it, may not want to use student to use it. In my case, I encourage to use it. I embrace it. So it's a different philosophy. Okay, I'm not saying I'm right but there's always pro and con in everything. Okay, one thing that I worry, I mentioned quite a few times, is the student become over reliance on the tool and end up not learning. Okay, you can submit my assignment and ask the AI tool to finish for you. They probably will get an A minus or A grade, most likely, if you prompt it properly. But if you end up learning nothing, then that defeats the whole purpose to be here. Okay. In the most likely scenario, just like I mentioned last time, is that for workplace or for job interview, you have to stand there without any tool. You be able to um, think on your foot and with your mind, and then try to answer any challenge question yourself. Okay. They may give you a computer, try to do certain thing. They may unplug it from the internet, and you have to do it maybe still on the computer, but no AI access. Okay. That's where you have to demonstrate that you're capable of doing without AI. But they may actually say, hey, another another test, right? One is without it, the other is with it, and they want to see how you use it effectively. Both can happen for the same interview. Okay. So just be prepared with that. Uh, let me There's a lot of terminology. Don't worry too much. AI has been around for many, many, many years, since probably in the 1950, by the way. And then there's machine learning. We use data to train algorithm or model to help us to make decision classification. And then deep learning comes through, which allowed us to particularly doing something like image recognition and a few other things. And then probably 2021, there's a something called generative AI emerged. That's our focal point. Okay. And another thing in this slide deck is just try to make sure you understand when people say AI, sometimes they're referring to generative AI, comparing to the more classic discriminative or analytical AI. You see this three circle all the time. AI at umbrella term, machine learning. Machine learning can do prediction, like linear regression is considered machine learning, by the way. Statisticians talk about linear regression, but also machine learning expert also use linear regression. That's the very fundamental algorithm, used sometimes in other algorithm. And eventually, some of the detail I'm not going to go through, but why it happened, particularly happened in recent year, in the last, I guess, decade, and then accelerated in the last 2, 3 years, because of three key components for it to work, start to come together. One is lots of data, on the left-hand side, big data. For training, for testing, for inferencing is like using it, okay? This is about model. For model, you need training data, okay? Just like your classmates mentioned, the writing training data, and then you separate the training. Once you train it, you need to test it. Does it work? That's the testing data. Eventually, you find out it worked with some accuracy. Then when you're actually using it, that's the inferencing data, okay? And so there's really like three stages: training it, testing it, before you release it to the general public to use, to your target user to use. Algorithm sometimes it's called model. So model corresponding to the big data, you need to train your model. Okay, you need to for large language model, the training is just reading a lot of stuff and then do some additional training before they can answer question, etc. So the model and the data, they correspond. If you look at the three testing, training, testing, inferencing data, here we have model training, model evaluation, that's testing. You're using the testing data to do that. And inferencing is just using the model. That's the final stage of using the model, okay? And another component is over here, it's the computational power, okay? The big data and then very complex model required a huge computational power, using something called, typically it's called GPU. There are other terms, TPU, NPU, like Google has something called TPU, Apple use something called NPU, and which is more specialized CPU for matrix processing. Initially, this is actually for gaming, okay? Because gaming for images, for video, they need specialized processing unit, and that happen to be the same kind of computational power that those advanced model need. This looks complicated, but I like the diagram, so I couldn't resist put it here. What happened, just a little bit history. Someone called Fei Li at Stanford right now collect a lot of data from the internet, a lot of images, and start hiring people cheaply, like labeling it. Okay, maybe like handshake. And Amazon has something like, okay, for 2 cents, if you label this image, you got 2 cents, 5 cents, whatever. I don't know where she got the money. So got a really large data set by comparison to some of the small data set exist in terms of image. And then she starts to mold that image net, as we call it, running competition to publicize it. And the first 2 years, the improvement is very limited. But competition is like whose model can better recognize some object in the images, okay? And eventually 2012, a group of researchers from University of Toronto, headed by Jeffrey Hinton, who's the professor, won the first prize. The improvement is like 25%. Very dramatic improvement that surprised everybody, which is kind of people can see practical use right away. There's a bidding war for the three researchers, including the professor. I believe Google may have paid, somebody may check, like Hinton's sold his company for AlexNet, whatever. The company has nothing. This is interesting thing. Basically, they create a firm, three of them, two PhD students, a professor. Unfortunately, I'm not the professor. They sold it maybe for $40 million. Google won the bid. Okay, Google may not be the highest paying, may not pay the highest price, but somehow they decided to go with Google. Professor gave maybe 40%. The other two students got 30%. One of them, I haven't heard about him since. And the second person, if you look at the slide over here, that Elias Saxby, he actually ended up working for OpenAI, ChatGPT, as a chief scientist. Okay, they all started with Google, and Hinton stayed at Google for many years until maybe 2-3 years ago. He saw the potential risk of AIs and decided to speak up in terms of its danger. But working for Google, that may not be compliance with the company policy, so he resigned from Google, and feel free to speak up. Okay, and he's one of the person I think has very, very high ethical standard in the field. By the way, a lot of those AI company CEO would say we do have like an ethical group, make sure we're doing responsible AI. Most of them, to some extent, are lip service. I've seen people get fired because they raised their concern in those firms. Okay. Anyway, so this group, they actually use something called deep learning neural network, which has been around, but we don't have enough data. We don't have powerful computers. So even though theoretically it exists and technically it exists, but it's almost like a toy. Okay. The only thing they can do at that time is like your zip code. They've been very successful to recognize your handwritten zip code to know that's like, okay, 90 whatever, okay, 93012, something, okay. And then the whole field accelerated since then. Last year's Person of the Year, we have this group of people sitting here. And by the way, if you look at it here, this is Fei-Fei Li, ImageNet. And who else? That's Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. This is Elon Musk, who actually co-founded OpenAI and left. Okay. Got a big fight with Sam Altman. They don't get along. These two don't get along, but they used to work together. The GPU, you're talking about Jason Huang over here from NVIDIA. Lisa Su, you probably never heard about her, but she's the CEO of AMD, which kind of try to also play in the field, okay, but not as powerful as NVIDIA. And there's a let's see. On your slide, there's one typo. I think I fixed it in this version. This is the person you may want to pay attention to, Demis Hassabis. That's the CEO and co-founder of DeepMind, which belong to Google, but they're almost like independent unit in England. Okay, and he won the Nobel Prize in chemistry last year. Okay, Hinton, I mentioned earlier, won the Nobel Prize in physics. None of them are in the physics or chemistry field. Okay, they're all computer scientists. Okay, so that kind of tell you that the technology AI is actually diffused into other fields and making a huge impact. Just thinking about Nobel Prizes given to the computer science, for physics, for chemistry. Okay, that kind of show the dramatic change. And along that line, particularly mine, they're doing a lot of work in terms of using AI for scientific discovery, drug development. Okay, that's very leading edge. Okay, it's not just going after knowledge worker. They're actually going after, I shouldn't say going after, that's very negative. They try to help scientists to advance the frontier of scientific discovery. Okay, that's the proper way of saying it. Okay. That's just another cover. And on the left-hand side, without going through it, there are hardware, there are infrastructure, cloud service. Uh, Three cloud service provider, major one, Amazon, believe it or not, you probably will be surprised. Amazon's AWS, Amazon Web Services, is probably number one. Microsoft Azure is another, and Google Cloud Platform, they call it GCP, is the third one. Oracle also play a role, but they're catching up. They spend a lot of money, by the way, in that field. And what is cloud? Okay, if you want to do, let's put it this way, allow me to use just like generative AI or large language model. If I want to build an application using something like ChatGPT, but not ChatGPT, actually I have to talk to a large language model through API, application program interface, talking to them. You're going through the internet. And somebody will actually install that large language model and be and capable of responding to your request and say, tell me a joke. They're going to tell a joke. Okay. And let me just show you, just for the fun of it. It may take me just a little bit time to. Is this the joke? Do I have a joke making app? Give me just a little bit time. Let's see. Just talking about it may not be as exciting as. I have to look at which one. Oh, there's API. Is this the one? Let me double check. Okay, this is a really simple one. Okay, don't worry about the syntax. Basically, this is a very small program. Okay, written in Python. I actually have to call some library. Don't worry the detail. I have to load some environment variable. That variable actually contain, we call it API key, because if you want to use like OpenAI's API, it costs them energy and money to run it, and so they have to charge me. Okay, so you have to kind of get an account, and then every time you use it, they will start metering your usage and charging you. Usually by 1 million token, depends on the model, which could be just it could be less than $1. Okay, 1 million token. So just if you follow along without knowing the detail, and basically you say, okay, I establish a connection with that. I know how to call it. Okay, this, and also I give the API key so they know who to charge. And then basically, you would you're going to send a message. The message is pretty simple, and just say, tell me a joke about calling large language model API. Let me just change that to just say, so this is like you're prompting ChatGPT, but in this case, it's written in my code. Okay. I can certainly ask the user, tell me what joke do you want? and then they enter something, I'll put it in here and send it over to the server. So that server is hosted by OpenAI somewhere. I don't even know what that is. Okay. Most likely, I think right now it's probably Microsoft Azure is that infrastructure is hosting it. Okay. Because Microsoft invests quite like $14 billion something, maybe 2-3 years ago, signed the agreement. The agreement is like, okay, I'll invest in you, you use my platform, you pay me with the money, I give it to you. Get an idea? So because they burn a lot of money, they need that infusion of capital because large language model is a very complex model. Training it costs a lot of money, and actually using it by me just like this doesn't cost a lot of money. But when a lot of people are using it, that costs a lot of money to host it. Okay, that's what happened. So eventually I've sent it over. I can select what model I want to use. If you're using ChatGPT, typically, if your question is very complex, use the most advanced model, if all possible. Which means there's several options. A lot of time I use thinking. If something is a little bit more complex, I will use thinking. If something is relatively simple, you want it to be quick, you just call it instance. Okay. And the flagship model, I believe, they're not pretty smart. If your question is quite complex, they would switch to the thinking model to think through how to solve this problem before they solve the problem. Okay, the thinking model is like there's a thought process going on. We call it system to thinking, slow thinking, which means you think through like your strategy of tackle this problem before you do it. Okay. Pro is research grade intelligence. But if you want to research a firm, research a product, research a marketplace for certain category of product, then this is a good one. Okay. Your subscription is GPT EDU. It's equivalent to the plus version. Typically will cost you $20, but through the school or CSU system, we got it for free as a student. CSU may pay $7 million or something like that for all campus faculty and students to use it. I heard that contract is maybe a year and a half. So when they run out of that money, I don't know what will happen. So use it as you can. I don't particularly like it in the sense that our IT department, our IT or CSU central IT department blocks certain feature, which may be nice to have. But anyway, so to some extent, we can compare just a little bit. Okay, tell me a joke about generative AI. Oops, sorry. Let me just run it. So I'm calling the model. There's a little bit delay. Why did generative AI break up with its algorithm? Because it just couldn't simulate their chemistry. Okay, you have to laugh. Okay, let's see whether. And by the way, we're using a more low-end model. So here, let's just use instance. I asked the generative AI to write a heartfelt apology to my professor. It applied. I'm sorry you feel that way. Did you get it? I'm not. I'm not sure. Okay, it's not funny to me. Let me just do another one. Oops, sorry. Try it again. Oops, sorry. Did I say try it again? Yeah. Why did generative AI go to therapy? Because it had too many unsolved prompts. That's good. Okay. Um, they even asked, do you want another one? And by the way, if I run this again, why did generative AI go to therapy? Yeah, it had too many completion issue. Okay, it's same question, different answer. So there's randomness in the generative AI. That's very important. For a lot of generative AI, there are some randomness. Which, is it good or bad? We call it hallucination. Is it good or bad? Or depends? Good, 1, 2, bad, 3, depend. Raise your hand. 1, good, bad. Okay, 3. If you're in my class before, you know it always depends. Okay. If you're something more creative, that randomness, it's in it, at least for us, it looks like they're more creative. Okay. If it is if you want something like every time I run it, I want the same result, then that randomness is not good. Okay. Also, the hallucination, usually they make things up, which may not be grounded in truth. Okay. We can talk about a little bit later, like why that's the case, because that's how they were trained. That's internally how they predicting the next word, and based on statistic pattern of the training data. If you say hello, then most likely they will say hello world, because they see hello world all the time. Why? Because programmer, when you learn the first statement in any programming language they try is hello world. Okay, that's why they read a lot of hello world. Okay. For instance, let's see, well, it's not here. It's not about joke anymore. Anyway, so, but if you say hello world and then what's next, then it may have several possible next word come out of it. And that's where the randomness may take into effect. So once again, to come back to this, I'm using OpenAI's API, but behind the scene, when I call the API, it's actually Microsoft Azure hosting their large language model. And then that platform may be running NVIDIA's GPU, using NVIDIA's machine and GPU. And that GPU was designed by NVIDIA, but it's manufacturing by TSMC, a semiconductor firm based in Taiwan, Taiwan Semiconductor Corporation. And TSMC is using ASML, a Dutch firm's equipment to producing those chips. Okay, so that's kind of a whole supply chain. And by the way, I'm not an investor. I don't invest in stock that much. Sometimes smart investor, I believe, don't call me, okay? They look at, okay, OpenAI is hot, but they're not public firm. You cannot buy their stock. You look at what they have to use. What's their supply chain? What's their value chain? You find out they're using Microsoft's platform. Okay. You buy Microsoft stuff. But Microsoft was hosted. Then you buy a lot of GPU. That's NVIDIA. You buy NVIDIA. NVIDIA produced that. They outsource to TSMC. You buy TSMC. Got it? Some people do that. Okay, they kind of dissect the whole value chain and then find out if something hot, that it actually all their supply benefit. Okay, but if you lose money, don't blame me. Okay. I don't do that kind of thing, but I know some people actually do analyze, like, okay, sometimes they even like take apart a smartphone and say, whose component is this? Who is this from? And what's their profit margin? Okay, if Apple sell like 100 million unit of this, and then that's how much they're going to make and whatsoever. Is there's another supplier competing, whatever, and that's how they do things. Generative one, we can generate text like a joke or creating an image, creating audio, creating natural language and things like that. Okay. And the traditional one, like housing price. Okay, if I have this house to be on the market, they can do some estimation. That's a number. An email come to you. You want to know the IT department runs some software to decide whether it's a spam email. That's actually some kind of classification or discrete kind of analysis. And sometimes they give you a probability. So for generative AI, we can help you to write email and help you. And by the way, when ChatGPT just came out, I think just that semester right after that, I clearly remember there's a student who couldn't come to the class, write a really, really long email, apologize and explain why she couldn't come to the class. Then I said, well, I never got such a nice email from a student, beautifully written and very long email. But once I start receiving the second email like that, then I know they didn't write it all by themselves. Okay. I don't blame them. I'm just know that's what happened. So sometimes we joke about like this email, this whatever sounds like AI written. Okay. So occasionally you may want to have a little bit of grammatic mistake. Okay. Don't write so beautifully. So you say this. I have somebody from a former student of mine that taught a course in Shanghai and wrote a kind of Chinese New Year. Today is Chinese New Year, actually. Happy New Year, Year of Horse. Wrote a Chinese poem, beautiful written, but at the end he said, "No, this is not written by AI." But for young people, he's relatively young, and for young people still be able to write classic Chinese poem, that's extremely difficult. I couldn't write it. I can write it such that it sounds like Chinese poem, but they have a very strict rule in terms of the sound and whatever. It's very difficult. Okay. I have some friend in college friend can write something like that. I only know two or three of my friends can do that really, really well. One is with engineering background, just like me. Okay, that's unusual. I say, how do you learn that, Eric? And you say, well, my mom gave me like 5 cents every, want me to memorizing all the classic poem. Okay, and over time, I learned how to do it. Okay, generating code programming. This is the area that actually advanced very, very quickly. So the AI tool created by programmer is coming to hunt the programmer as a profession. Okay, and that's happening. If you ask any of your friends that you know or friends' friend working in Silicon Valley who are software engineer or programmer, they probably will tell you that's the case. Okay, and why? Because programming, there's a logic to it. It's probably much easier than human language, if you're thinking about it. Human language is a lot of fuzziness and uncertainty, but programming, there's a logic, and also you can get a lot of those information for the training. Generate image, that's no-brainer, and then problem solving, more complex problem, they can follow actually certain step that you give to them. Okay, once again, if you show an image, there's a dog in it. They say there's a dog, there's a cat, there's a cow in it. That's traditional discriminative model. If you show actually, if you describe a dog and let the system generate a dog image, that's generative AI. Okay. Let me see whether I can, I'll show this to you again, but let me just show you something that I'm working on. This is an example of generative AI. You put, let's assume you put an image of you, you find a model dressing some fashion jacket, and then the system basically can create this. Okay. a friend of mine did this, okay, without any coding. I told him the tool, and he's very good. Technically, he's actually better than I am. He played with a lot of those generative AI tools. He's a very creative person in the sense he write novel, short novel. He creates some movie. If I find a good one, he creates some really interesting movie, but he didn't make a lot of money like on YouTube, but he just enjoyed that process. Okay. And this is just without a model dressing this, and you can change the setting over here. I'll show you. I'll show you. Yeah, I play with my own image and whatever. Okay, I'll show you. Anyway, uh, he got into a little bit issue like deploying it for general public to use, end up to be a little more expensive. So I did a little bit research and say, well, I mean, generate the code itself costs money, and deploying it, it's about 15 cents to generate the image. I'll show you some of the picture of mine. This is a different app that I built. That's my image of mine. This is like how do you call it? Pencil, whatever, sketch. Initially, there's I don't know if you noticed there's some audience head are kind of blocking thing. So initially they do have that. Then I said, no, 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 get rid of those audience head. Okay. I don't want it in the first place. And eventually it looks really good. Okay. That's me. That's kind of more Chinese dress. And this is what they come up with. It still looks like me, right? Much younger. Okay. A little bit. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, and by the way, you can probably download an app like this from Apple Store, whatever, maybe even better, but you can build it yourself based on your own liking. You can share with friends. And you can share this with friends without paying anything. But in that case, you're sharing your code, which means they can run it on their end, but they can see your code. They can to some extent copy that. Okay. But if just for fun, that's fine. That's me. Okay. Uh, More formally, and see, my gray hair is still there. Okay. I can probably have a custom prompt say, paint my hair black. Okay. Make me younger. And you can do that. But right now it's not, you're not allowed to have customer prompt, but it can be easily done. And by the way, I'm going to show you how to use this tool behind this app, which is AI Studio from Google. Everyone can use it. It's free. Okay, you can really generate something without coding, and we call that vibe coding. Eventually, this made talk to my friend Paul and just say, we felt that potentially Google stock may be impacted by this trend because people are building their own app. Okay, they don't download. I mean, for simple app, you can download it. I mean, you can build it yourself. You don't use other people's app anymore, not that much. So I skipped quite a few things. Just make sure you understand the traditional AI and generative AI. Okay, when someone say, the reason I keep coming back to this is like a lot of people say, oh, AI can do this, AI can do that. Sometimes they're talking about more traditional AI, sometimes they're talking about generative AI. So you want to have clear, they are quite different. Okay, they certainly, it's an evolution, but generative AI is kind of a new breed, and you want to know, they're talking about generative AI. And you know, generative AI has some pro and con, classic one has some pro and con. This was a book probably published maybe 2 years ago. I pretty much read it from cover to cover. They have four kind of guiding rule. And let me explain that just a little bit because it may not be that obvious at least in my opinion. Always invite AI to the table. What translate that to? If you need to do something, if you need to always thinking about can I use AI at least to help me? Okay. Uh, fixing the fixing something at home, yeah, they cannot help you to fix it, but you can ask, they can give you some suggestion how to do it. Okay. And so there are certain things, certainly they're better. Why he say this? Because a lot of time we just say, oh, this is so special, this is so difficult, I don't think they can do it. So you don't even bother to ask. Okay, so give it a try. Second, be the human in the loop, which means we have to thinking about what's the role you're going to play. Okay. Eventually it become the co-pilot, the co-thinker. That's one of the reference book that I think we from Harvard use the term co-pilot, which means you ask them to do certain tasks. Co-thinker is you're bouncing idea with them. And eventually what the role the human should play. The third one is nothing unusual. Treat AI like a person. You always say like act as an expert in instructional design, help me to create a tutorial on prompt engineering or something like that. And by the way, I would expand that in terms of this role playing to 3 role. Okay. In first one, what role generative AI play? Okay. Role playing. Act as you are an expert. When you say you, typically it means the AI. Okay, generative AI particularly. You are an expert in something. And a lot of time you just say you are a lawyer, help me to do this. You may want to say you are a lawyer specialized in business law in the entertainment industry. Okay, you may want to throw in a few more keywords. So just thinking about this, such that you probably will get a better result. Why? Because they know too much. If you're not specific, then when they search, they will find something pretty generic. If you use, it's almost like Google search, right? Sometimes you use certain keyword, you get better result. You more precise keyword, you get better result. It's a little bit like that, not exactly. They will give you a probably better quality result. So one is like what role AI play. The second, target audience. You're generating something for whom? Particular content. Okay. This is a blog post for college student. Okay. Interested in our master program in business analytics. Okay. And the third, which not many people mention, but I think sometimes it works, it's like the role you play. You say, I am a program director for the Master of Science in Business Analytics program. And then you are an expert in digital marketing for the educational system. And then we want to create a social media blog post to promote our program. Here is our program. Okay, so kind of describe the 3 roles. Doesn't mean you always need to do that, but sometimes the more precise, the better. The last one is important. Assume this is the worst AI you will be ever use, which means the model improve, the tool's performance and capability improve by leaps and bounds. Okay, so just because you have bad experience doesn't mean that you give it up forever. You sometimes will come back. Hey, does it work this time? Okay, I can show you one that I tried last night if I can find it. I've been using kind of asking similar question for several years now. And this time it surprised me a little bit. You can try on your end, but you can change it a little bit. Okay, you can go to ChatGPT. say, and throw an idea. I have an idea for new business or startup. Okay. I use sushi food truck. Okay. Because I remember, I think it's the 2023 in my entrepreneurship class. I said, oh, let's come up with an idea. One student said, how about sushi food truck? So I've been using sushi food truck since then. Typically, this is very typical. I love it already. They're very good in pleasing you. Why? Because they're trained to please. Because they're trainer, like you are the trainer, okay? And sometimes, I don't know the training you go through, sometimes they may, like, you may ask a question, they will give you like 4 possible answers, you will pick the one that you like, you will rank them, okay? That's one way of their training, okay? Before that, there's another training, which I have a slide talking about it. It's like you write actually a prompt and then you write the answer. Okay, and that they probably need to hire somebody who are really good in terms of writing certain type of document to do that. But that's very expensive. That's why the second stage of training is actually you just rank the AI generated answer in terms of your preference, the trainer's preference. Guess what? We all like things that when people say, I'm very good, okay? If somebody keep criticizing you, it may be really good for you, but after a while you say, I don't like him or I don't like her. Okay. But it surprised me is like, see, they use depends, okay? Maybe they learn from me. But whether it's brilliant or brutal depends on execution, how you do it, okay? Without getting, and this is very long. I'm a little bit surprised they actually very thorough. Okay. If that's not what you want, you can say, okay, please give me just a 2-paragraph response. Please give me a response in 500 words. Please give me a response to address the following 3 issues: capital, opportunity, visibility, or whatever. Okay, so you can guide the system in terms of what you want. Okay, but sometimes you would intentionally not to be too specific. I don't think, I'm not sure whether I mentioned this. Prompt engineering principle is more specific, the better. But more recently, my realization is sometimes you may not want to be too specific to see what they can come up with. It may surprise you. They may be thinking something that you never even thought of. Okay, this is where it's a little bit subtle. For instance, in this one, it's very good. Okay, they kind of even give you a few choices. They talk about the financial part. You probably never really thought about that. They even like say what strategic question do you need to ask, and etc. And they also certainly talking about risk. Okay, but if you just say, tell me about those 3 things, we may forgot about risk. Okay, and then they bring that to your attention. Okay. And by the way, in the past, they never really mentioned risk. They always say, wow, that's a great idea. Okay, go for it. Okay. And this is where, because that's its personality, agreeable personality to some extent. So you have to learn, if that's the case, you observe that's what they're doing in terms of the behavior, then you have to always like anything that you miss, anything that I should be aware of, any risk involved, any downside of this. Okay, you have to ask. Sometimes you have to ask. Okay, or maybe in your prompt you say, tell me all the pro and con in this business idea. Okay, so they have a little bit more balanced view. You can also say something like, okay, assuming you have a kind of a short business proposal, business plan, okay, or we call it elevator pitch. You can say, well, tell me, act as a venture capitalist, look at my elevator pitch and tell me what you think. Okay. And maybe even saying something like, pretending I'm challenge me on with question pretending we're in the Shark Tank, which is a TV show, okay, with venture capital investor, you're doing the pitch, and this is my pitch. So this you can simulate that interview process. Okay, they say, hey, do you have any traction in terms of what you have done and what who is your target audience whatsoever. Okay. So that's kind of that little example would just say, well, it's better and better. Okay. In that instance, because I used that prompt over the last probably 3 years. So I know it's different. Okay. Unfortunately, I didn't carefully document each of the interaction. This is a little bit this very interesting. In Britain, I believe, when a new gadget show up, there is a law called Red Flag Act 1865. When you drive a car, believe it or not, you need to have somebody raising a red flag in front of you, leading the way. Okay. Can you imagine that? Okay. When you're driving, you have to have someone walking in front of you. That defeats the whole purpose of driving a car. Okay. But even more surprising, because it's not safe. Okay, we don't know this strange animal. Okay, it can be dangerous, risky. So we need to safeguard, we need to have a human in the loop, in the sense. The law repealed in 1896, almost 30 years later. That surprised me a little bit. Okay, I can understand the initial reaction. Okay, we may be, what does this tell us? Human in the loop. Okay. Right now, most of people will agree that human in the loop, but if you look at this in history, we don't want that human in the loop anymore, right? We have traffic law, we have stop sign whatsoever to govern how we drive. And also, anybody driving Tesla? Anybody? No, not me, but I have a colleague of mine um, had Tesla, maybe two now, and the um, the husband actually driving Tesla long distance quite a bit. And she kind of jokingly said that I don't know when he know how to drive anymore. Okay. Um, I don't know. If to me, I probably will be in the panic mode. Okay, sitting there, my hand on the steering wheel, and just in case something happened. But let's say after hundreds of hours, everything seems to go smoothly. You start to relax. That's my my guess. Okay. This is from this article. Go and read it if you're interested. It's written by the CEO of Notion, which kind of a note-taking AI system. It actually he went back to the history and kind of making some analogies. So if you enjoy reading a long article, that's a good one. We're moving to something we call it multimodal and foundation model. Okay. Multimodal just means we can do text, image, video, both input and output. If you look at the if you look at that virtual stylist, I may call it virtual fitting room, right? The um, the the input is the image, the output is the image. Okay. And certainly it's image and the text because behind the scene there's a text like the background is in the art museum, the background is it's in a high-end living room, whatever. Okay, but it could be just pure text. Okay, and then an image or even a video will be generated. Let me see. Oop, where is my? If you want to create image, you may need to click this. You can give it a try. You just say create image. One of you may want to try that without selecting creating image, but I always try to use thinking mode, a more advanced model. I'm not sure whether I should use thinking mode, but let's say a man dressed up in I'll just write something really simple, and the background is added in your living room, in the office. Okay. Um, um, talking to his boss, something. Let's see. To create image, it used to be a few years ago, you have to be very, very specific. Okay. You almost need to know like lighting, whatever. You can be very specific, like the light's coming from here. If you want something really, really specific, then you okay. So that's good. So it's text to image. But here's the issue. If we may kind of jump ahead a little bit, why it's always like white female? Although I say male, so I cannot blame the system, but why it's all white men? Okay. Um, you can argue most of the training data of white men dress up. Most of them are white, okay, in their data. Okay. So when we say generative AI may have bias, not they intentionally want to have bias, not that we tell them when you create people in men in office use Y or whatever, okay, but because most of the image they have seen are like this, okay, or to show me employee dress up in the office, most likely it will be man instead of woman, okay. And but sometimes it may backfire. You say, oh no, we cannot do that. We need to have like DEI and diversity. And but if somebody want to create something like some historical recreated images, they may create something which doesn't make any sense at all from the historical um, angle. Okay. But anyway, it's multimodal, but we can say, well, explain this image for me. So this could be the other way. Right now, the input is the image, the output is interpret what the image is. You can take picture of your bike, which is broken, and say, how can I fix it? Okay, then it's an image and then instruction how to fix it. Okay. So so that's what that multimodal means. We can ask questions. Sentiment analysis just means like movie review is a good, bad, or okay. You can extract information. Like sometimes I got a transcript of an interview. I say extract all the quote from the interview, extract all the name mentioned in the interview or article mentioned in the interview. That's called name entity or information extraction. Image caption, I took a picture and then let's see whether we can do that. Add a photo in file. Let me use just a CI's background. Okay. Create a caption for this picture that I want to submit to a photo competition. Okay. It's the bell tower. I think I got it from the internet somewhere. Okay. But it's really nice. So I kind of used as a background for my Zoom. Where the day exhale, the quiet campus wrapped in sunny store. Oh, they know it's a campus. That's interesting. A tower in slow and country crown. Didn't that's interesting. A golden hour draped the art and time slow lighting, remember. Um, do you know where it is? Guess what? Yes or no? I need to figure out where the image is from. It might be a campus Spanish colonial. Did I say CI? Yeah, bingo. Okay. And so they even know this Spanish, actually it's a Spanish missionary style to be exact. Okay, I know a little bit better. I've done some volunteer campus tour, so I kind of know what that is. Specifically the bell tower, okay, around the main squat. I think we call it the mall, right? Is it? Okay, but anyway, so mm, does this language model just like stochastic or statistic parallel who just creating the next word and word by word saying something they don't even know? The answer is we don't know. The answer is people, even the expert in the field, have the opposite opinion. Some say, yeah, they just like the parallel saying things they don't even know. There's another say, in order to answer things very clearly, they need to have some understanding of human knowledge. Okay. Allow me to go a little bit technical. This part is important. First of all, we do not, I mean, large language models training, they read a lot of stuff. Wikipedia entry, tweets, and program coding. And for multimodal, you feed them a lot of images, etc. But they're not storing those data as it is. Okay. If you're thinking about we're storing all those texts, so when I need to answer, I go and try to find something to answer it. No, that's not the case. Okay. The text that you enter, let's just focus on text. The text you enter eventually go through something called embedding and convert all the text to number. Okay, we call it vector, which means it's like multiple number. Each one of them we can call it a dimension. So it could be 1,000 dimension, and each dimension is just a real number represent one of the dimension. Okay, but what does that number mean, and what does that dimension imply? Let me give you an example, but allow me to say this. We have 7 dimensions on the top. We label it and say that dimension means this. Like, is that a verb? Is that, I mean, is that a singular form, plural form? What's the gender? Is it related to royalty or royal family, whatever? And is it like animal, living being, etc.? Okay, so, but in reality, we really don't know what those 7 dimensions are, or that 1,000 dimension is, but they do mean something. Okay, capture the semantics of the language, the words or the phrase. Okay, but this is just for illustration purpose. Let's have some fun. Why? And eventually we do something called dimensional reduction to show the. Just imagine if this is like 3 dimension, we have different words. Through the training, we're adjusting their position. Okay. Eventually, certain word maybe have similar meaning, will become close together in that multidimensional space. But we cannot show like anything beyond 3 dimensions. So we kind of map it to 2 dimensions. Why these 4 words placed in this plan 2-dimensional space this way? Why these 2 come close together? Cat, kitten. Kitten are, you know better, little cat, right? Is it? So they're cat. So when you mention kitten, you probably mention cat. They sometimes we call it co-occurrence. They show up in a sentence together or the next sentence whatsoever. Dog and cat, right? Do you own a pet? Yes. Is it dog or cat? So we mention dog and cat sometime together. Okay. How about house or houses? White cat is close to a house. Dog is a little bit further away. The distance. Anybody own a cat? A dog? Nothing, no? What's the difference between?
I mean, like, not like too close to the house because the house cat has.
Yeah, most of cat are house pet, but they don't want to go out. Dog always want to go out. Take me to a walk. Okay, but cat don't do that, right? They hide in the corner. They don't want you to be bothered by you most of the time. I don't know. My son owns some cats, so I kind of know a little bit. Okay. And so that's the wise. When you mention house, maybe cat and kitten were mentioned more often than dog. Okay. And this is a very classic example. If you look at it, king minus man plus woman result in a vector very close to queen. Okay, let me see whether I can. Let's see. King minus man. How can we do that? Plus woman. Okay. To some extent, we probably should say this. King is a man. Okay. And then the question is like, for a woman in similar position, okay, in the royal family kind of things, what will be the title for that woman in that role? Then this direction, this distance between man and woman, if you apply that here, then you come very close to queen. So we kind of can reason in this way. If you're thinking about it, I can, although we never may not even tell the system like when it's a female man, like a king, and then this woman, then we call it queen. You may not say that in any of your training data, they can derive that. Okay. Certainly they have to know queen is a female figure. This is a little bit academic. Although ChatGPT made the generative AI a hot kind of emerging and hot technology, the original research is by Google's researcher called Attention's All You Need in 2017. I think a few of them were even intern, summer intern. They're all of them, most of them started their own company, left Google. Okay. The only one still doing kind of engineering work is this guy over here, but now working in OpenAI. And let's, okay. Let's cover this. The reason human language is very difficult to understand, we have prior solution or algorithm try to understand it, but none of them are really that good. If you're thinking about even like Siri, Siri did not really use so-called large language model. They're pretty, they can answer some question, but they're not, I don't know. Anybody have experience using Siri? No, but that kind of prove my case. Okay, you can say, oh, what's the weather? What's the temperature? They can probably answer that. For some commonly asked question, they can probably understand. But if you want to carry a conversation, that's very difficult because conversation, you need to, we call it, technically there's a term, we call it long-term dependency. We need to, you cannot, you need to remember what your friend said like 5 minutes ago in that conversation to understand what they're saying now, right? Okay. And you can imagine if somebody like, if a person has really, really short-term memory, they don't remember what you said in the previous sentence, they will always come back and ask you, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Because they don't understand what you're saying. Because to understand what you're saying, the sentence or the word, I have to understand the whole context. Okay. The article, the classic article, is called Attention's All You Need. I have another phrase. I say context is what matter. Eventually, that means context what matter. The attention is you need to understand the interest. You need to attend to other words. What are the other words to help you to understand this word that you try to understand? Got it? Okay. But that's very challenging, but the smart guy figured it out how to do it. Like interest could mean I'm interested in politics, but interest could mean bank interest rate. Okay, same word has different meaning. How do you know which meaning to use? You have to look at the words close to it. This is internal architecture. Don't worry too much about it. Called transformer. GPT, T stands for transformer. It's the technical architecture used in ChatGPT. There's two. One is encoder, that's for training decoders to answer your question. Don't worry about the formula, but this is from linguistics saying you should know a word by the company it keeps, which means what are the words kind of near it. Okay, that's the context. Okay. I'm going to skip some of the technical stuff. You can try this. The patient was given a prompt, mask, to reduce fever. The system actually can tell you how to fill in the blank. Okay. This is called masking. We use masking to actually train the system, but now you can ask the question like this. When I say train the system, labeling training data is very expensive. Okay, people have to pay you to kind of say, if someone say this, that's what I mean. If that's the image, there's a cat in it. But for text, we have a lot of, the patient was given like aspirin to reduce the fever. You take the aspirin out and then ask, okay, guess what's in here? You know the answer. That's the label. Okay, label in machine learning just means a known answer. And when you train the machine learning model with labeling data, that's called supervised learning, which means you have an answer for the problem. Okay. And so that allowed us to create training data without much of a label cost. I'm going to skip the training process, which I kind of described earlier. Let's do this. You ask ChatGPT a question, they actually have to send it to a large language model. It's almost like, if I may go back to my coding here, when you ask a question, the system will actually, let me change my code a little bit. So it may something like prompt equal input. Wow. If you pay attention here, this is actually called code completion. Take a look what may even I kind of know this feature, but I'm still a little bit surprised. My cursor is just in that input. Okay, input just means you have to prompt the user, say, because otherwise the cursor will just stay there. The user don't know what to enter, so you have to say, please enter your name. That's the prompt. Okay, that's the prompt. We also use some prompt in that case. But guess here, the system kind of figured out, say, enter a prompt for the AI. Sounds simple, right? But it's not. First of all, they certainly understand syntax. They know they have to have a string in that input. Okay. They need to have a prompt. Prompt in this case, I need to tell the user what to do. But they say a prompt for the AI. Where they get the idea? See what I mean? If they say enter a prompt, I can understand that. I won't be too surprised or amazed by that. Okay. They probably read the whole program. They know you're calling API, calling OpenAI's model. So you're talking to AI. So they kind of use that information, use that context, long context of the whole program. They're reading your mind. To some extent, they're kind of reading your mind. But when I say reading your mind, they're reading the whole thing. Okay, so the context is what matters. The longer the context, it shows that they're very understanding. Understand what you want to do, what you say here. So in this case, I will, oops, sorry. I will hit the tab key, say, yeah, I like it. Okay. The prompt for, let me just say GAI. Okay. Oh, here's another intelligence. I'm sorry, I'm not teaching coding, but just show you in this example how smart the system can be. Initially, I have message row, user, content. This just, the message you're sending is like a user's role. You play the user's role. The message I send in, you're calling the user. Okay. And tell me a joke. That's hard coded. Every time I run this, just tell me a joke. Now I actually have an input asking for user to give me something. That the program becomes dynamic. Right? They know enough. You should change this to the prompt, to that variable. I didn't tell them, tell me what else I have to change in my program. They said, hey, by the way, you probably want to change that. I know what you try to do. Got it? I know what you try to do. You create a variable, capture a prompt. And now that hard-coded, like tell me a joke should be that prompt. Okay. So let me see. Maybe I should just click on it. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what happened. Enter prompt for the GAI. So here, I'm just say, tell me a bad joke. Okay. MIS class. Okay. Probably not a good idea. Why did the MI student bring a letter to the class? Because they heard the assignment were really above their level. I don't. So that's you don't have to be a programmer, but this kind of shows you what's coming. You can imagine you're doing some other work, knowledge work. You write out some document, whatever. They can kind of sometimes help. Okay, if you have some idea what you want to do, they will think ahead of you because they have seen a lot of examples, partially. Okay. Any question? Okay. I'm not pushing you to be learning coding, but allow me to at least share my view. Okay. Coding is not as difficult as it used to be because now we have the so-called AI coding tool, just like your HTML. Okay, it's not programming, but if you interact with the AI agent, they can help you to pretty much complete everything. So right now the entry barrier is much lower, and eventually in the workplace, the business may expect the student, I mean, not student, the employee are capable of using such tool to build things, okay, including potentially simple app or even more complicated app, okay. You will be expected to be a builder, okay. Let's see. We can take a break, we'll come back. How's the weather outside? Anybody? Take a pick. Is it raining really hard? I remember last time it was raining really, really hard. We have to run. Yeah, okay. Let's take just 5 minutes break, okay? In short break, we come back and then I do some prompt engineering stuff, then we'll go home. Okay, 5 minutes break. Sure. Let me pause the recording. Yes.
Sure. On your end, because the other day when I looked at my submission, when I opened the folder, it like doesn't work.
Show me what you see in terms of your submission.
Wanted to make sure, because I emailed you and then nothing like that, but you never answered me. So I just put it in. See, like right here's my zip file, because I'm like, I mean, this is a school computer, so like I don't really know how to use it, so I did it in my, but when I opened this.
Click on it and just don't worry.
Yeah.
You don't open, just okay. Click right, extract all. You have to do extract all. Then extract it to, and this is fine. I mean, you know that's where it extracted to file, right? No, just extract.
Yeah.
No, if you click on it,
Sure, honestly.
that's what is supposed to work.
Oh, okay, so that's, so when you, right, you're gonna do that, right?
Yeah, I'm going to extract it. Yeah. If you, because when you click it, it's not.
Yeah, because look, this is
The-
what's
the-
happening. It was doing that.
I know.
It's like,
Yeah,
okay.
you have to extract it.
Okay, I just wanted to Make sure, because I didn't want you to grade it and then you're like, I can't. see it.
Understand, yeah,
Okay, thank
yeah.
you so much.
Yeah.
No. What were they? It's interesting. It's That's what I just want to. No, but this is No, it was just. Well, and I think somebody, what is the? But from basketball, it's there. I used to get off stage. I already felt like oh, okay, all that oh, yeah. Yeah. Makes the person. That was my very first job. I didn't shut the call. I was so excited. I didn't know. I had been so happy. You just love how exciting that you felt exciting. Because I was like so different. Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, that's right. There's still even if you get out like about it was finished, and then it was getting because I mean the companies I can just and then I thought they got what they are I think it's just really no, I'll worry that I heard it was like so that's
Okay, let's get started. The rain stopped, so just for the moment. Allow me to jump ahead to much later part of the slide deck. And because you always hear about this in terms of hallucination, which means and that to be even a Cambridge Dictionary, the word of the year in 2023, and which means they would generate false information or response, and sometimes, particularly if you like ask for citation, then I mean, ChatGPT is not the best place to ask for citation. Perplexity may be a little better, and you may want to do web search. And if you're really doing research, then you may want to have more specialized tool to help you to find references. But I don't think hallucination is one to blame, because I'm going to show you what. Let's put it this way: make it even worse. They would tell you in a very convincing way, like this is and they're very convincing, by the way, because they can write beautifully to some extent. I found an image. This was in 1979. Look at here. A computer can never be held accountable. Therefore, a computer must never make a management decision. That's by IBM in the mainframe era. Okay. I have friends. Her son is a radiologist. Okay. This may be 2 years ago when he asked his son, are you going to worry that you're going to replace by some AI tool? In this case, it's not even generative AI tool. It's actually a more discriminated image recognition tool, because I think there's even some research prove that those two can probably make more precise diagnosis by looking at the image. Okay. The son wasn't worrying. He said, well, somebody must sign the dotted line to be responsible for it. Very much like the thinking here. I think he recently asked, that tone has changed a little bit, because you can imagine, yeah, there may be still a radiologist making the final call, but they may be using those tools to help them to do the first reading, highlighting things they find there's some abnormal situation that speed up the process. So initially you need to have 5 radiologists working in the department. Now you may need 2 or just 1. You want to be that one, by the way. Okay. There's still a human in the loop signing the dotted line, but that may be the only one. I mean, we could argue eventually that we may not need that person, as long as insurance are willing to take the responsibility. Okay, because insurance has to cover doctor who made a bad diagnosis, right? The same thing, insurance can cover an AI machine who made that bad judgment. Okay, so that may be coming. Okay, we were joking the other day. I think was it yesterday? Yes, we have some candidate coming, so we went to lunch together with a candidate in accounting. We're talking about, oh, maybe one day a lot of my colleague wasn't really worried too much about AI's impact to education in terms of faculty job will be safe. We're talking about something like professors say you cannot use AI, but professors are using AI to grade your assignment. Student got really upset, right? You ask us don't use it, but you're using it. Potentially, we can have AI as a tutor or as a professor. You have an AI professor teaching a class. Okay, maybe supervised by a human professor. Okay, and then I was jokingly telling my colleague and say, down the road, maybe student will say, well, first they will say, where's my human professor? But then a few years later, they say, why there's a human professor here? Okay. I don't know. I will be retired by that time, so I don't worry too much. Okay. But it's an interesting time, it's a challenging time. You come here at the right timing because it's early it's the beginning for everybody. Okay. You put your energy into it and try to learn as much as you can. Just like I have to learn a lot of things from scratch. Okay. I was telling a friend of mine who I had a conversation just before the class. I said, well, I mean, a lot of things I've been teaching hasn't really changed, although MI's changed a lot, but a lot of fundamental doesn't change for almost the last decade or more. But this time it's different. I have to learn a lot of new things. Okay. And I still believe the fundamental doesn't change. Okay. A lot of fundamental doesn't change. Like some of the, like, remember I have that system framework that's still valid. I can use that to describe how AI tool work. Okay. So that's still useful on that wisdom, knowledge, information, data hierarchy. That's still very helpful. So certain thing doesn't change. The tool change from time to time. You need to understand what's the difference this time. Okay, how can I take advantage of it? What I need to be careful. Explain that stochastic parallel in hallucination. Let's take a look. Predicting the next word. The best thing about AI is its ability to, you feed this to the system. Internally, you don't see this. Internally, they, based on these statistic pattern through the training data, they know learning has 4.5% chance to show up if somebody say this. Okay, so that percentage is probability of using that for that word to be the next word. Predict, ability to predict, to make, to understand, to do, etc. This is what happened. The randomness comes from not that the probability is random, but when we decide what's the next word to use, we don't always choose the highest probable next word when you talk to ChatGPT. If they always choose the highest probable word, then every time they give you the same answer. Sometimes we want that, but a lot of time that's not what we want in such a system. Okay. So there's a little bit of random selection. Let's assume those are the 5 words that we can choose from with that probable distribution. The system probably will choose learn with higher chance of being chosen, but other less with smaller probability can be chosen. That's why we have sometimes different answer for the same prompt. Okay. You can adjust the temperature. I'm not sure when they're in my code. It is possible in the code, you can actually set the you can set the temperature. If I set the temperature to 0, every time prompt for GAI, I'll just say large language API, whatever. Let's say, I'll just say GAI, whatever that means. Okay. Ooh, what happened? It's more than what. Okay, I guess they're. So you're asking what is GAI? They answer that. Let's see. It's not a joke. I should say, tell me a joke about GAI. GAI can refer to a few different things, depends on the context. Okay, just remember that. Let me just run it again. The answer is should be still slightly different. Okay, I expect it to be the same, but it's still slightly different. You cannot adjust the temperature when you use ChatGPT. Another thing related to when we say predicting the next token, or next word, not a big deal, right? This is actually what happened when you ask a question, whatever, when they start creating like, what do you like? The system will say, I like. Then they're going to feed that back to the transformer architecture, the system. Transformer will say, I like to, and then send I like to again back to the system. Just thinking about there's a process here. And then every time you generate one word, you have to send everything back to it again to get the next token or word. Just imagine if you generate a 500 words article, you have to run through the system 500 times. This is why it's very expensive. Okay. Because every time you kind of repeat that, they call it auto regression, process again and again. Okay. Burn a lot of energy. And so that's the probability. Okay. But before I explain this, just thinking about the following. Just assuming you are the large language, your brain is a large language model, right? Okay. When I talk, when you talk, you are doing similar thing, like generating the next word, right? Okay. Do you think about it that way? Probably not. Sometimes if you have a situation, I'm kind of lost my train of thought. I lost what the next word I'm going to say. Okay, but doesn't happen very much. Okay. I keep talking, but I don't talk. I keep what should I say next? Okay. You don't do that. We do it, our brain is very, I guess, very efficient. But to some extent, like you can finish the sentence. Yeah. Okay. To some extent, how our brain works, is still a mystery. We don't really know. The computer are simulating it, but whether that's true, how we think, how we speak, we don't know. I don't know. Okay. So hallucination can be helpful, but can be bad. How do you reduce it? Give more context, be more specific, give it domain knowledge. For instance, if we may talking about a more modern approach. If you're talking about, for instance, our CI's some policy regarding signing up for course, okay? And we do have advisor helping you, but advisor are so busy, so let's build a chatbot to help you. If you just ask general question to large language model ChatGPT, they probably don't know CI's policy. But they read a lot of policy and they may not answer based on CI's policy. So what you do is you would actually set up a specialized database, which is actually a vector database, feed in all the advising related to policy, related to students enrollment, etc. So when you ask a question, they will consult that database and find out relevant policy related to your question. And eventually you send it to the large language model to get an answer. So the answer will be based on some ground truth. Just imagine notebook LLM, right? We introduced. You can upload some document. Then when you having a chat with notebook LLM with those documents uploaded, it's based on those documents. What I just described is this called RAG, okay, retrieval augmented generation. separate document, store domain-specific document related to your domain, and customer service, like return policy, for instance, for customer service. Then when user asks a question, you consult that database, find relevant segment of the text and attach that to your prompt and then send it to the large language model to get an answer. Because we still use the large language model to speak fluently, okay? Fine-tuning, very expensive. Don't worry too much. You can do that, but you're changing the large language model. You add additional training data. Okay, personally, I don't have a lot of experience, I have to admit, but I heard some people argue this way. Depends on the situation. I don't think that's the best approach. RAG is more common approach, more acceptable approach. It's cheaper solution. Fine-tuning can be very expensive. Okay. Train your own large language model from scratch, forget about it. Okay. Too expensive. Hallucination could mean creativity. Okay, so depends where you use it. It could be a feature instead of a bug. This is an interesting one. This is by Andrew Neam's free course on Coursera. You can go and find it. Coursera has kind of some pretty good courses. A lot of short courses are free. Some courses used to be all free, but now some of them are not free. Let's look at the prompt. Brainstorm 5 ideas for increased cookie sales in Q4. Okay, this is the result. Okay, but you can certainly say better. I'm a local bakery. I sell like German style cookie whatsoever. You can be a little bit more specific. This is another one. Brainstorm 5 creative name for peanut butter cookie. Okay. And this is the answer. Okay, whether that's good or not. And by the way, some of them may not make any sense, but for brainstorming in principle, not large language model or not, even with 100 on one of them is very useful, that's good enough. All the other 99 are trash. You don't care. For example, one that's really useful you can use, that's good enough. In brainstorming, there's a principle like you aim for quantity, not quality, because with enough quantity, you will get a quality answer. Oh, sorry. You can, this is naming the product, you can give C words, some keyword, okay? For instance, we can try this, okay? You provide with a product description and the C word, your task is to generate product name. So the whole thing is a prompt. You can try it. You can download this, copy and paste this and see what you get. So not only you ask them to create a name, but you also like, I want you to use some of the keywords here, not all of them, okay? Here we just call it seed word, okay? It's a home milkshake maker. Okay, so the product description here is pretty brief. You provide some C word, and here this is C word. And your task, when you say your task, what's you? Large language model, right? The role large language model play. Your task is to generate product name. I did not say how many names. They probably will give me a few. Quite a few. Okay, more than what I need. But tell me the preferred buy, premium, play for. I would tell her the list to match. I don't know starting when they started to suggest you how to follow up the prompt. Okay, that's very important. iteration refinement is one way to get good answer. They find out that's important, but a lot of people don't know how to do it. So guess what? They decided to help you out. The last sentence is what's happening here. Okay. Learn from it. Sometimes you say, oh, yeah, I can, let's say, fun and playful. If you highlight in ChatGPT, there's this pop up, you say, ask ChatGPT and give me just fine to keep it simple. See whether they would do the fun and playful name. Zip shake, snap shake, shake sweet mini, work well. Bite has shake go. So that's this one, okay? They're still pretty common. This is the one I want you to pay extra attention because the first time I saw it, I was a little bit surprised and suspicious. Let's put it this way. What's unique about this time? We're still doing naming things, okay? Brainstorm 5 names for a new cat toy. Step 1, etc. Step 2, step 3. What's unique about this prompt compared to what you have seen in other prompts or the prompt we have seen earlier? The steps of the writing. Yeah, it's basically the step. Follow the step. Are they going to follow the step? Do they understand the instruction? They understand the instruction like naming thing. Okay, listen to understand that. But now we want them to follow step by step. Do step 1, do step 2, do step 3. That's more challenge, right? If they know how to follow all those steps, technically they can carry something out almost like a workflow. And but do they really understand it? What's the answer? Yes, no, you can. You can. Or the fourth, there's another one. Give me another answer. Finish the sentence. Do they really know how to follow the step? Yeah. Like, say in the next word. Yes, no, D, can, or. We don't know until we don't know. Yeah, that's correct. We don't know until we try it. Right? Give it a try. And by the way, nobody knows. I mean, nobody before to try it, they don't know what. This is, if we go back to that, bring AI to the table. You don't think they can do it. In order to table, give it a try. See what they can come up with. Does it work? Does it work every time? You know they can follow instructions. Then you give them more complicated instruction steps. They can do that, then you know they can do it. If they cannot do it, maybe you didn't give the right instruction. You have to, sometimes you can say, oh, they cannot do it. Sometimes your instruction is not good enough. Or maybe your model is not powerful enough. I think I was, I was working with a student last week in the master course. I finished lecture, it's an evening class, room only, and then you stay on until the professor, you went over there, I told you it didn't work. And it's a really tricky situation. At the end of it, we solved the problem after about 2 hours and a half, about close to midnight. This one turning point was And look, we're using the AI engine. So he was using it. I don't think he has the pro account for GitHub Copilot. So I'll show you just a little bit. I cannot repeat the whole thing, but I can show you a little bit. It's like this is the agent, and then mine has a lot of things showing up. And he only has something like he was using something like Cloud Kahoot. I kind of know that's actually a much less powerful model. And we're getting into some problem. We don't know how to solve it. We tried different ways several times, didn't work. I said, oh, that doesn't work. Maybe you want to switch to a more powerful model. And he didn't have the powerful model open, so we have another way to install like codecs in this environment. Then eventually I said, let's go for the most powerful one, like 5.3, whatever. And that actually pointed out what we need to do to fix the problem. So if it doesn't work, there's a lot of reasons. We didn't give a clear instruction that the tool can understand, if you want them to understand, or the model that you pick may not be powerful enough. Okay, or this is just out of consideration in the current frontier model. They just cannot do it. That may be the case. Okay. And by the way, do you always choose the most powerful model? Why not? Well, it's going to be equal to open. That's absolutely clear. You can solve it. Yeah. First of all, sometimes if you use the most powerful model, they use the thermal token, and sometimes if you look at the, it may not be that clear, but if you really look at the 1x, 3x, if you use more powerful model like Cloud's Opus 4 it's 3 times. The rate is 3 times more. Okay, so if it's a simple question, don't bother with that. Okay. Use cheaper model and get good enough answer.
A simple request that with a more powerful model have a likelihood of losing them.
That I don't know the exact answer. May not be. The more powerful model, they make overthinking it, so the response time may be actually slow. Simple model don't think that much, but they think the answer. So that's another consideration. If the response time enough, always use the most powerful model, like deep thinking mode, may not be a good idea. Okay. So in the interest of time, why don't we do that? Okay, you can copy and paste. And by the way, I always start a new, I mean, a lot of situations you saw me start a new chat, because if I don't, then whenever you ask a new prompt in the existing chat, they will send everything, including the new chat, back to the system. So when they try to answer your question, they will consider the context. If that context is irrelevant, you don't want to mix it up. Okay, you want to start a new chat. I'm not sure when did I point this out. There's a temporary chat. What is that? Is that the same as like starting a new chat? It's starting a new chat, but without memory, without long-term memory. Long-term memory, I may have mentioned this. If you come here, you go to personalization. If you go to, I think it's, where is it? There's a memory, you can manage the memory. They do remember not all the chat, some of the chat that you have. For instance, somehow they know I'm teaching Python and MS program in business analytics. So a lot of time they would ask you about, do you want to create assignment for your MSBA student in the Python class? sometimes they will do that and say, where did that come from? It's from the memory. Okay. I'm done with that course. I don't want you to keep coming back for that. Go and clean up the memory. It's part of the memory. Okay. If they seems to know you over time, that's because of the memory. Okay. It wasn't a feature at the very beginning. They add this in. Uh-oh. Did they just that's weird. They gave me the answer right away. It's not step by step. Okay, maybe I should do this. Hold on a second. What can I do here? Let me try again. Maybe not using the thinking model, just use the flagship model and see what happens. Yeah, this is what I expect. Step 1, generating 5 fun, joyful words related to cat. And then step 2 and 3, they combine it together, which means for each word, come up with a rhyming name for toy. And for each toy name, add a fun and relevant emoji. So they feel comfortable combining the two, that's fine. So there is an emoji, but the color is not that visible. So yeah, so you can follow up and say, pick the one you like. From the branding and marketing perspective. Sometimes you have a hard time choosing among those 5. So whisker twister. Okay, that rhyme, right? What stands out as a branding and marketing perspective? Instant cat specific, whisker, whatever. And by the way, if you just think about it, it's not just you come up with solution. Imagine you have to present it to a client. You work for advertising meetings, right? The client said, hey, I got a new cat food and we want you to help us to name it. And by the way, brainstorming methodology was invented by advertising meetings in the 60s. Okay. Awesome. I wrote a book called Apply Imagination. Okay. So not only you come up with a solution, you actually have to explain why this is a good solution. The follow-up prompt pretty much provides you with information you can give them a briefing book, like the design regimen. And just it's remind me about a case, okay, somewhat related to this, nothing to do with large language model. When Steve Jobs left Apple the first time, I mean, he came back the second time as a CEO. He left, something got this point, he started a company, blah, blah, blah. I mean, got foresight, not blah, blah. And he started a company called Next Computer. You probably never heard about it. Let me see when I can put up something. And he hired someone called Paul Wren right here to design the logo. Guess how much he paid for this logo? Next computer. Go ahead, give me a number. I think it's 100,000. Yeah, I'm not 100%. I have to double check. Okay. To me, that's and by the way, this is probably today that may be how much you have to pay. At that time, it's I don't know when. It's probably late 80. Okay. This may be, it's not just like, hey, here's the logo, give me 100,000. Actually, they have a design brief kind of explaining why it's put together this way. Okay. So let's see. He's very well known. Steve Jobs seek him out and say, I want you to design this. This is the money, this is the check. Okay. Let's see how much. I remember it. Yes. Okay. 100,000. By today's standard, it's $250,000. Okay. But it's not just, hey, this is logo. I'm an expert. You have to explain to them what does it mean. And you have to communicate with the client. What do you want to convey through that logo design in the first project, right? CI is going through the logo kind of branding things. I have an opinion about it, but I won't go into comment on it because it may be more. There's a lot of things. Let's not go there because I do have colleagues involved in that process. That's why I don't want to comment on it. Branding, is it important? It's important. Steve Jobs willing to pay $500,000. So I'm not saying branding is not important. What's important is the substance is equally important. Okay, if I have to do the branding, I have to ask existing student, potential student, what attracted you to be here? What do you want to? What information, what do you want to know about CI, and to decide when you come here, what attracts you to be here? Okay, not just like, oh, we want to kind of create a fancy logo. Do you know CI's logo? Nobody can draw that logo even close enough, right? I kind of know red is our color, right? And by the way, I think we did hire someone maybe free of charge who may used to work for Disney to create a logo many years ago for us as a courtesy. Okay. So this brings back an issue that we have to ask that I mentioned, like, do they really know to follow the instruction? Because because I'm teaching the master class, we have to cover like AI agent, which is the hot topic. The AI agent is not just answer your question, they can go and do things. When we talk about prompt engineering here, and some people will argue, oh, prompt engineering is not, how should we call it? Prompt engineering is irrelevant because the large language model is so powerful now that they know what you need. You don't even need to be that precise. They can do a really good job. I agree, but would like to disagree to some extent. Still a good prompt still work, and also a lot of fancy things people talking about. If you pay attention to the AI, generative AI. And like there's something called skill, okay, which you describe how to do things. And for the like cloud code to help you to kind of create agent to get things done, not just coding, but other things. When I look at how they write the skill, it's like prompt engineering. Okay, let me see when I can get a quick one for you. This is from Entropy. They have something called skill. And let's just look at, without getting into detail, otherwise it's a lot of information. Branding guideline. That's what we just talked about. This actually describes what the skill is for. Apply, I mean, for their company, Entropy's official brand color, topography, and sort of artifact, whatever. So let's just say what this skill is about. Very short. We intentionally keep it really short. Okay. Then you give very, very detailed instruction. Okay. Color, styling, shape, and font, and very technical. You expect the AI agent or large language model to read the skill, be able to understand it, and follow your instruction. So that to me is still prompt engineering in some way. Okay. But use the color, apply down PDF color class, maintain color fidelity across different systems. So if you step back and look at it, eventually it's a large language model need to understand this and tell the AI agent what to do. Okay. Do we know they really know how, whether they understand this when they write this? Guess what? We have to test it. We don't know. Okay. But over time, if someone, it's almost like you have a colleague that you work with, like a new assistant or colleague. And sometimes you really don't know whether you're good enough to understand your instruction with colleague to do something, you'll screw up, and you'll need that, and you say, oh, let me try another way to tell you how to do it. And then over time, you know how to communicate with them. You know their capability. You know what the instruction you give, they can understand that, right? Just the skill, the prompt user is not just for AI or large model. To some extent, you need to learn how to communicate with the people you work with. And the people, the employee or workers in the future could be a digital employee. Let's put it this way. You need to understand how to talk to them. Make sense? Okay. That's the world you're going to face down the road. And good luck. You will be successful. Okay. But you need to put in a lot of time to learn the new stuff and do a little bit more hands-on stuff, because that's when you would learn. I do believe in this course, I try to have some hands-on, but you have to put a lot of effort. This is my belief. You can, if you go to YouTube video, there's a lot of hype. People say, oh, this is wonderful, the future, this is what the future will be, similar to what I'm saying. But unless you try something, even in a very small scale, you don't get a true feeling. Okay. Just that little program, we're not doing the programming, right? They know that I have to say from the AI, and they know I have to change that. And that little thing, then if you think broadly, what's the implication? Doesn't have to be programmed. The actually say, oh, if you want to do branding, you have to consider the following factors. And they can go ahead and potentially do it for you, enforce it for you. And for good or bad, it's coming our way. If you use it wisely, that become the tool that empower you to be very competitive in the workplace. If you can certainly ignore it, you may be, I mean, most of you would still survive and succeed. I'm not saying that you have to, this is the only way out and up, right? But it doesn't hurt to have another tool in your toolbox to be with you. Okay? Why don't we go home? Read a lot of stuff, and there's tons of material. Just be curious and keep learning. Okay. Thank you, and I'll see you next week. Your assignment is due, right? Is it today, or what's the due date for the HTML? This Friday or last Friday? Oh, I need to start grading it. Okay, it's my fault. Uh-huh.
5:30. Is it today? Oh, we'll get to it. Okay, we're not there yet. No, we're not. Make it quick.
No, I got to finish what I'm doing. I'm going to school and